Hello, everyone. My name is Kyla, and I'm from Hidden Gems Literary Emporium, a nonprofit bookstore here in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And today on Ask the Author, we have Miss Rosemary Dawson, all the way from the Down Under. Why do they call Australia the Down Under?
I think it's because it's from the other side of the earth. It appears to be, but not really. I mean, in Ireland, it's vertically opposite, actually, on the world map or the world globe. And there is a rumour that when St. Patrick drove his staff into Ireland, it went straight through into Australia, which is why basically the Australians and the Irish are very similar. If you meet an Aborigine, they used to say the Irish were the Aborigine of the North. Obviously, we're not in that respect, except that we share a dream time philosophy. We have great beliefs in our dreams and in basically culture and standing by what you believe in. The Aborigines are not as aggressive as the Irish. However, the Irish tend to basically, believe it or not, because they're in the northern climate, they tend to resort a lot to alcohol, which does fuel that determination and aggression, whereas the Aborigines are more chilled out, as they say.
Interesting. I'm happy to have Ms. Dawson here today on our segment because she is very knowledgeable in a lot of interesting topics. And I am very interested in her book, which we are here to talk about today. Now, this is her fourth book, I believe, called The Rogue's Way. So, Ms. Dawson, if we can begin, could you please just introduce yourself to our audience and let them know the inspiration around this book?
Hi, my name is Rosemary Dawson. I come from Northern Ireland, and the inspiration for my book is trying to show the reader that we have certain patterns of family behaviour which is imbued upon us through our cultural belief system and through the culture we come from. Sometimes these beliefs may not sit well with a new country we may go to visit. And I find that with coming from Northern Ireland, we have a certain attitude because of the struggles we had prior to the peace talks in Northern Ireland. And coming to Australia, where it's a very laid-back country and nobody really bothers that much. And it's only in recent years that people have started to get really fired up about situations they felt were unfair. But when I first came out, I found a very laid-back atmosphere. And when things weren't basically being justly executed, there was an attitude of let's not worry about it or let's ignore it, hopefully it'll go away. So in the situation I was in where I was teaching in a high school, I found that this laid-back attitude is a bit like the ostrich. They bury their head in the sand. And I find that I cannot do that. That's my personality, or perhaps it's my background. And therefore I felt it necessary to write about what happens when people are naive enough to believe that we all share the same sort of belief system, because we don't. Our cultural background, our heritage, all basically influence how we look at a situation. If you lack diplomacy in your life, and some people do, I know I'm one of them, you may not be as diplomatic about getting your needs met as you could be. And as a consequence, that will cause conflict amongst your peers, because not everyone wants to champion a cause. Most people are just content with earning a living and getting on with life, whereas some people take exception to what they believe is an unequal situation. And that's what prompted me to write my book. I believe that sometimes that really we're better not to basically get involved with situations unless we exactly know whom we're up against. So as I say in the book, naivety is no excuse. So you pick your fights. You don't rush in willy-nilly and think, well, I don't think this is right, I'm going to champion this cause, because you'll find that situations are not quite what they appear to be.
Yes, and I gleaned a lot of that when I was reading the book. Can you talk about the main character and how you came to form her?
Okay, Angela, like a lot of new teachers that come into the system, have this ideal attitude or towards basically teaching and about how they're going to change the world and they're going to empower people. However, Angela discovers that how she thinks she should empower people is not what everybody else thinks. And sometimes we're left with egg on our face simply because naivety does play a huge part in life. A lot of people are indoctrinated with this belief of the fairness of society, that really if you tell the truth, everything will work out okay. But unfortunately, a lot of people, their truth is not your truth. And so what you consider to be a truth is not necessarily accepted by everybody. And that is what the book is trying to show, that when you basically champion a cause or you believe in a cause, it's not the same way as everyone looks at it. And if you actually talk to 5 members of the same family, you will find that each one of them sees their position in the family from a different point of view. And they will give their attitude towards their parents, towards their siblings, in a way that is quite contradictory to basically their brother or their sister. And it's the same thing in the workplace. Everyone sees the workplace from a different perspective, depending on what needs they really would like to have met. And unfortunately, Angela was coming from her own perspective, from her own background, from what she considered to be right. And as a consequence, it was not a belief shared by other people in the workplace.
Yes, and in the book, Angela goes through some pretty interesting experiences. Where did you get the idea or the inspiration for some of these experiences that Angela has went through, which can be and are in many instances realistic?
Well, when we share life experience, all of us share them to a certain extent in different ways. And as a consequence, if you actually look back over your own life, everyone will have a situation where basically they were very naive and therefore they tripped themselves up. They were left with egg on their face because the people they thought were walking along with them or backing them up, they just weren't there. They will also find that when they actually trust people, their trust can quite frequently be misplaced. And again, that is something we all share, because being human beings, we all have different needs to get met. You have your emotions to get met. Think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Our basic need of food, shelter is very important. Then being community minded or having friends and being with other people is also very important. And then when we've met all those needs, we have this desire to basically share our knowledge and our wisdom with other people. Not everybody is at the same level emotionally, psychologically, mentally as other people. And therefore, some people are a bit slower about getting the big picture. And that, unfortunately, was Angela's case. She was a bit slow or a bit naive about really seeing the reality of life. And it can be a very harsh teacher, but we all have been guilty of that. Usually you learn these lessons in your family of origin. You learn basically how to get your needs met and how other family members relate to you. And you begin to negotiate that way. Then when you go to school, primary school, the same thing happens. You begin to understand how people function and how you need to get your needs met, and you do what is necessary. High school is a different ballgame altogether, because in high school, it's more sociable, it's more community. Then if you go on to further education, you get a higher knowledge of how things actually operate. However, if you choose to leave school and not go to further education, you will find you're more interested in commercialism and basically getting your basic needs met still, and you work very hard. So you have a different outlook on life, depending on what your life path is that you have chosen to follow.
Yes, and I think that's something that Angela is working through in the book, finding her path. She cares about this issue and she's trying to navigate all of these obstacles that come her way. And there's kind of, a struggle between, am I going to pursue this and do what I feel is just, or am I going to, succumb to all of these circumstances and people that are honestly threatening her to try and get her to stop?
That's correct. People try and influence her or put pressure on her to basically conform to what is expected of her. And unfortunately, Angela has a mind of her own and has decided that no, she's going to pursue this goal or pursue this sense of justice. And no matter what anybody says, she's determined to do that. Interestingly enough, throughout the book, I have actually mentioned Angela has these dreams. Now, we all have dreams. We get a feeling about something. We get a nightmare warning us basically to be very careful. Often we think it's just a dream or it's just a nightmare, but everybody has a sixth sense. We are born with a sixth sense for survival mechanisms. And sometimes we will listen to your intuition, and other times we don't want to listen because our ego gets in the way. And we think, no, I'm determined to do this. And then unfortunately, by not following our hunches or intuition or listening to our dreams, we end up getting ourselves into quite a pickle. So that is Angela's case to a certain extent. However, she does listen to the dreams, but they simply warn her of the path that she's going down. She still doesn't change the direction, but she is very aware of the fact that she has been forewarned in a dream. We all have that, and we find that people belonging to us who have passed over, for example, around anniversary time, will get a feeling that they're around us, and we may get a dream connecting with them. So I think that it pays dividends to basically record your dreams and get any information you can. And in the book, Angela is trying to do that. However, she is very foolhardy and she will not be told.
Yes, I want to pivot a little bit and talk more of the logistical aspects and the work that you put in putting this book together. Now, one thing that I noticed right from the first page was that you write in a very descriptive way. It makes it very easy for the reader to imagine and illustrate what is happening in their minds. Talk a little bit about your background. Are you a lover of words? How long have you been writing? These type of things.
I have to be honest, I do love the English language. I basically have been an English teacher most of my life. I love descriptive writing. I find that when you basically do visualizations, it's almost like descriptive writing. You're picturing something in your head. And I regularly write down my dreams. Every single morning, I write down the dreams. And I find that dreams are very vivid, and they actually contribute to our ability to be descriptive. I read non-stop. I have one book after another. Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning made a huge impact upon me. And that idea of people have acute disappointment no matter how much they put their trust in a system. Another book that I read, which also had a huge impact upon me, was by Edgar Cayce, and he was called The Sleeping Prophet. And he was an American Sunday school teacher who found that he could go to bed at night and he could put a book under his pillow and he'd wake up in the morning and he'd know what was in the book. Now, obviously, that is a very gifted individual. We may not all have that ability. However, we have the ability to retain a lot of information. And that's why I believe that using dreams in particular, it allows you to have a very vivid experience of what life could be like, as well as what life might be like. The more we read, obviously, the more impressed we are with words and with language. And being an English teacher, as I said before, my life path has really revolved around reading books and description and trying to enlighten students and make it very vivid. I joined Toastmasters quite recently, and a couple of young people came after I joined and they were asking me what it's like. And I said, well, Toastmasters is actually like giving a performance. Basically, you're trying to appeal to the imagination, which is also like writing a book. We are giving a performance on paper, and we are trying to appeal to the imagination of the reader. Therefore, it's very important to basically make them feel part of the book and to make them feel that they can relate to the character. It's a real life person and their real life situations.
Absolutely. And, I completely agree with what you're saying. We've been asking a lot of our readers and people that we meet, and also authors, we've been asking them, why is reading important? And I think your answer was spot on. Reading gives you more of referential information, but also the ability to illustrate your writing more eloquently. And so that's what we tell our students a lot of the times, is if you read more, you'll be able to write much better because you have so many references at your fingertips.
Well, I agree with you, actually, because when you're actually given a description of whatever you do, if you can reference different people who have gone down a similar path, obviously it will have much more clout and people will be much more impressed by your knowledge, and then they will trust you and they will believe that you know exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And from your experience, so this is your fourth book. Tell us a little bit about your other books, but also I'm interested to know about your process of writing your books. Do you just, I call it go and flow, just sit down and write everything that's in your mind, or do you create an outline first? What's your process when you are writing your books?
As I said earlier, I do write every day. Usually I'm writing down a dream. And if anyone actually recalls their dreams as well, like I do, they will find that it gives them an idea. And at a certain part of your life, a certain time in your life, different things basically become more important for you. Because earlier in life, obviously, you're getting your needs met, you marry, you have a family, you have to meet all those family needs if you choose to go down that path. If you're career oriented, you're building a career, you're a workaholic, you're looking at opportunities, you're networking, and that's also basically a life path you choose. Now, you study a lot when you're basically building a career because you want to be as informed as possible. And you meet as many people and you try as many things as possible that you believe will enhance your career. With writing, the more you write, no matter what it is, it can be just basically you've heard a little word here or there, or something has basically appealed to your imagination and you write a couple of words, that will stimulate a different track for you to go down, or it's like opening up a pathway for you. And therefore, the more words or the more ideas or the more sayings that someone gives to you, it will stimulate your imagination. With writing itself, I find that having a grandson now, I find it's really interesting to see the way children are beginning to learn to speak. And sometimes they don't understand the words as such, but they understand basically the lilting of the words, or they understand the way you say the words. And I think that words have to be in such a way that they appeal to the ear as well as the imagination. And therefore, that's why certain words resonate more with us than others, depending, again, as I said, on the time of life that you're at this point in time. If you look at actually the 20s and 30 age group, they're very much into computer games and video games, and it's a very sort of, I suppose, it could be very violent or it could be very energetic, the kind of words they use to basically express the energy involved in a particular video. Again, if you're actually going into a much more calm and sedate aspect of your life, the words are tranquil and they give you a vision of something that basically calms the mind and allows you to relax. If you're interested in having a relationship, obviously you're interested in words that are going to be very romantic and very user-friendly. And again, stimulate feelings of joy, feelings of love, feelings of nostalgia. So yes, the type of words you use will indicate the type of area in which you're going down at this point in time.
Absolutely. Oh no, please continue.
Okay, I was going to say, with the type of books that I've written, this one here, Shadows, does indicate basically a part of our nature that we tend to ignore, but which would be really actually in our best interest to deal with that part. Instead of always trying to be Miss Congeniality or Miss Friendly, we need to look at another part of our nature as in, well, I really am ambitious. I really am hungry to get my needs met. And instead of actually always saying, no, it's okay, you go first, sometimes we need to say, yes, it's my turn. Yes, I'd like to be noticed. Yes, I want to put my best foot forward. Now, that is important. And it's addressing that part of the personality that I have written this book is very important. With Roisin, the Irish Dream Catcher, this does give a specific technique where you can actually harness the information in your dreams. And you'll be amazed at the information you can get through. For example, when we were selling our house, I asked to be told in a dream in exactly how many weeks we would sell the house. I asked for someone to give me a statement giving the number of weeks, and I asked to remember the statement. And in my dream, my older son appeared. He said, Mummy, I've got chicken pox. I'll be better in 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, we sold the house. Now, this book describes incidents with other people who have used this technique and basically who have found that information in dreams can often give you advice about your health, give you advice basically about relationships you're in. So it's an interesting way of stepping outside the box and looking at things more objectively. Veritas, again, describes the process that we all go through when we look for justice. Not everybody sees it the same way, but again, it shows the pitfalls and how big business, industry have a certain format that they follow. All organizations have a criteria that they follow to get basically money for their investors, to make big profits. And it doesn't matter about the small person, because big profits are what the organization around it basically is geared towards. Therefore, they do have a format, as I say, where when they have a problem, this is how they solve it. And they have a strict etiquette they follow to do that. So in big business, because they may not behave the same way that you do, it doesn't mean they're wrong and you're right. Because it simply means that this is a business opportunity. It is not a personal problem for you. They don't take it personally. You shouldn't take it personally, because in business, it is all about the bottom dollar.
And you know, I love the nature of all of the books, because it seems like you like to focus on themes and topics that can truly make the reader a better person. With the Rogue's Way specifically, what would you say is one thing that you want the reader to take home with them once they are finished with the book?
Well, in the Rogue's Way, I want people to understand the part we each play in creating our own circumstance. Things don't happen to us. Things may happen, but the experience we have is how we deal with it that's important. So that is what the Rogue's Way is about. Every single one of us shares similar experiences, as I said earlier, but it's how we as an individual will deal with those experiences that will make the difference.
I definitely agree. And Ms. Dawson, I really want to thank you for your time today. Last thing I want to ask you is, how can our readers connect with you? How can they stay in touch with you? If they have a review, how can they let you know what they think about any of your works?
I would be very pleased to hear from them. I do have a website, however, probably the Instagram page is much better, Rosemary Dawson 52. But I do have a website, www.rosemarydawson.com. And if they'd like to send me a message about review, I would be delighted to hear it. And also, as I said before, I do have an Instagram page as well. The actual comments and how people feel about the book, I find very interesting, in that some people, they think it's absolutely horrific because people could be subjected to that. However, as I said, the book is basically illustrating how each individual will deal with a particular situation from their own perspective. It's not necessarily shared by other people, and that's where the disappointment often happens.
Yes, and again, thank you. We just followed you on Rosemary Dawson 52 on Instagram, and I want to encourage all of our readers to come into Hidden Gems Literary Emporium and check out this book specifically, The Rogue's Way by Miss Rosemary Dawson. You can purchase The Rogue's Way or any of her other books on our bookshop account, bookshop.org/shop/Hidden Gems Literary Emporium. Please support Miss Dawson, as she has a lot of important information to share with readers around the world. And again, Ms. Dawson, I really want to thank you today for your time on Ask the Author with Hidden Gems.
Thank you very much, Ella. I do appreciate the time you put in this morning. It's very kind of you. Thank you.